Welcome, everybody. Gather round. Listen closely. Right now, let me welcome you with a thunderous roar and a powerful embrace from the depths of my heart. You are here because you dared to step into the unknown. You dared to challenge the ordinary, and now you stand at the edge of something monumental. People losing their sanity over this phenomenon, asking, how did you do this? How are you pulling this off? They gaze incredulous, they gape in wonder, they whisper in fear and fascination. And here you are, holding the answer in your hands. But you are more than that. You embody the unexpected. You defy the routine. You shatter the limits. Unlike any demonstration or performance, this is raw, unfiltered, powerful, real energy pouring through you, touching minds, shifting beliefs, awakening dormant power. But heed this message. You must own it with responsibility. You must carry it with integrity. You must wield it with discipline. The world around reacts because you radiate the unknown, because you channel brilliance, because you operate beyond common comprehension. People lose their sanity when confronted with true creation, when confronted with a spark that defies expectation. How did you do this? They cry. How are you pulling this off? They demand, yet they do not understand. You do not owe them clarity, and you are not required to explain. You are the point of creation. You are the ignition. You are the force that alters the landscape. And that is enough. Let them question. Let them marvel. Let them fear. Let them admire. For when the masses cannot comprehend you, they project chaos. They project bewilderment. They project obsession. And in that projection, they reveal their own limitations. But not you. You transcend. You elevate. You pull this off by knowing your inner workings, by cultivating your craft, by refusing to submit to doubt, by refusing to bow to fear. You pull this off by embracing failure as feedback, by treating limits as illusions, by forging resilience when all else crumbles. You build systems, you refine processes, you sharpen your vision, you test, invoke, iterate, innovate, until what you manifest dazzles beyond belief. You harness focus, you protect your energy, you prioritize what counts fiercely and ruthlessly. You embrace imperfections, you learn relentless, you endure lonely nights, you persist through setbacks. You summon courage from uncertainty. You remain unstoppable. You became unstoppable. And now you show the world what many believe. Impossible. Because you redefined impossible. You pulled this off because you dared to be audacious, to think differently, to act boldly, to move strategically, to align your heart, mind, body, soul, in unison around a singular vision. People lose their sanity because they observe results they cannot replicate, and they fear what they cannot understand. So you must stand tall. You must remain calm. You must radiate confidence, not arrogance. You remain grounded. You remain humble. You remain purposeful, because true power is quiet, assured, unwavering, grounded in service to deeper calling. You pull this off through intention, through design, through relentless momentum. You constructed habits, you designed rituals, you optimized performance, and you sustained growth day after day, hour after hour, moment by moment. That consistency birthed results so extraordinary that minds fracture simply by witnessing them. So listen carefully. You are not an anomaly. You are an experiment in excellence. You are living testament to what emerges when discipline meets creativity, when patience meets urgency, when heart meets strategy. People losing their sanity over this is not your concern. Their sanity fractures because they cling to norms. They cling to excuses. They cling to stories that hold them back. They fear change. They fear exposure. They fear possibility. But you moved past fear. You moved beyond comfort. You moved into action. You moved into growth. You moved into impact. And that is how you pulled it off. That is why they ask, how are you pulling this off? They want to decode the mystery, but there is no secret. The secret is raw, relentless, consistent, intentional action, aligned with your deepest true self over time. You built capacity. You built momentum. You built trust with yourself. You built clarity of vision. You built resilience. You built confidence. You built momentum. You built impact. And impact draws attention. It invites scrutiny. It triggers disbelief. And yes, it shatters sanity in the unprepared mind. But not yours, because you prepared, you trained, you aligned, you mastered, you leveled up relentlessly. You reached higher. You pushed deeper. You stayed committed through discomfort. You stayed faithful to your vision through doubt. You stayed driven when results felt impossible. You stayed curious when uncertainty reigned. You stayed kind to yourself even when everything around wavered. And because of that, you stand here now, holding results that terrify mediocrity, that challenge complacency, that awaken possibility. And the world recoils and raves all at once, and people ask again and again, how did you do this? How are you pulling this off? But you steady yourself. You smile inwardly. You know the truth. You smile at the innocence of their amazement, because you know that you are living proof of something greater, something beyond formula, something beyond luck, something born from grit, inoculated through pain, refined through persistence. And still you rise higher. You still reach further. You still perform greater. And in the rise, the world continues to lose its footing and perception. People cling to sanity, but sanity bends under true creation, under true revolution, under true self-mastery. They lose their center. They lose their reference. But you remain anchored to your purpose, to your discipline, to your identity, to your unwavering why. And that is why you pulled this off. That is why you will continue pulling it off. That is why the question will echo again and again across minds bewildered by your presence. But to you, this is simple. You act intentionally. You live deliberately. You execute with clarity. You iterate with humility. You scale with perseverance. You stand grounded. You walk unwavering. You speak with unwavering confidence, rooted in action, not ego. And because you do this daily, you produce results. Daily, you shift perceptions. Daily, you awaken possibility in others. Daily. And that ripple triggers chaos and wonder and awe in minds unprepared. You pulled this off by mastering the internal before commanding the external. You pulled this off by building systems before chasing attention. You pulled this off by aligning energy before pursuing recognition. You pulled this off by honoring process before craving results. You pulled this off by nurturing growth before expecting perfection. You pulled this off by choosing discomfort over stagnation. You pulled this off by choosing integrity over shortcuts. You pulled this off by choosing authenticity over imitation. And because of all that, you created something unforgettable, something unmistakable, something unstoppable, now and forever. And although the world may ask with disbelief, people losing their sanity over this, you stand ready, unfazed, centered, rooted in a deeper power that cannot be shaken. So answer them with presence, not explanation. Let your being be the statement. Let your impact be the testimony. Let your consistency be the proof. Let your humility be the character. and let your vision continue pulling you forward into new territory, new heights, new mastery, new creation, and they will continue screaming. They cannot fathom, they cannot internalize, they cannot replicate, but you will continue pulling this off because you were born to do this. You were forged to evolve. You were destined to transcend, and you remain committed to that destiny, unwavering and relentless and powerful beyond measure. And still you stand as the world watches, stunned mouths open, hearts racing, trying to comprehend the force you have become. They look for loopholes, for secrets, for anything that could explain away your dominance. But they find none, because you did not take shortcuts. You did not stumble into greatness. You earned it with sweat, with pain, with quiet sacrifice behind closed doors, while no one clapped, no one saw, and no one cared. And now that they see the glow, the fire, the unbelievable rise, they scramble, trying to catch up to a race. You've been running for years with your eyes locked on a horizon they still cannot see. You didn't chase the spotlight found you because you carried your light through the darkest of nights. You didn't shout for recognition. You worked in silence and let the results make the noise. And oh, how loud that noise has become. It echoes in boardrooms, in locker rooms, in classrooms, in back alleys, and high towers. It shatters illusion and rewrites expectation. It makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to question their own passivity. You are the mirror. No one expected the one that reflects potential unrealized paths. Not taken effort withheld, truth denied. And that mirror is blinding when held up to a world that fears self-awareness. But you are not afraid of the mirror. You are not afraid of your shadow. You faced it. You embraced it. You made peace with the uncomfortable parts of yourself, and you pulled strength from the places most try to ignore. You leaned into the hard conversations, the painful lessons, the brutal honesty of growth. You didn't run when it hurt. You didn't quit when it stalled. You didn't flinch when the pressure mounted. You adapted. You evolved. You became more. You took failure and turned it into focus. You took heartbreak and turned it into hunger. You took confusion and turned it into clarity. You turned every drop of resistance into fuel and built an engine that never stops. That is why they look at you now, eyes wide, voices, shaking minds stretched beyond their limits and say, "What is this? How are you pulling this off?" Because they see only the outcome. They don't see the journey. They see only the summit. They don't see the climb. They see the flame. But hey, not the matches burned along the way. They see the masterpiece, not the years spent sketching, failing, erasing, restarting. They see the transformation, but not the fire it took to burn the old self to ashes. They never witnessed the nights when you questioned everything, the mornings you wanted to give up, the moments you felt invisible and insignificant, but chose to keep moving anyway. They don't see the weight you carry, the mental load, the emotional toll, the spiritual war that raged inside of you, until you rose out of it with scars and steel and a fire no wind could ever extinguish. You pull this off because you are no longer waiting for permission. You stopped asking for validation. You stopped living for approval. You began building from within, owning your voice, moving with intention, focused not on applause, but on legacy. You understand this is not about a single win, not about a fleeting moment. This is about becoming undeniable. This is about leaving behind a trail so blindingly lit that others can find their way in the dark just by following your footsteps. This is about awakening not just yourself, but others too, through your unwavering commitment to what most fear, most avoid, most never begin. People are losing their sanity over this. because your existence forces them to rethink everything they believed was impossible, everything they labeled as unrealistic, everything they convinced themselves was out of reach. And suddenly you stand there proving it is not only possible, but inevitable, if one has the courage to begin and the audacity to continue. So they grasp at explanations. They whisper, maybe it's luck, maybe it's timing, maybe they had help. But none of that touches the truth, because the truth is you worked, the truth is you bled, the truth is you studied, trained, struggled, sacrificed. The truth is you didn't stop when everyone else did. The truth is you kept showing up when no one clapped, when no one cared, when no one noticed, and now that they see you, they can't look away. So let them ask, let them wonder, let them spiral into madness trying to understand a masterpiece they did not help paint. You owe no one an explanation. You owe no one your blueprint. You are not here to be understood. You are here to expand, to ignite, to move mountains and minds and moments. You are here to become the impossible, and in doing so, you awaken the buried voices, the hidden strength, the untapped fury within those who dare to watch you closely enough. You are not here to blend. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to dim. You are here to create waves and leave legends behind. You are here to disrupt the narrative and write your own truth in ink too bold to fade. And still they ask, how are you pulling this off? But they're asking the wrong question. The real question is, what would happen if they chose to believe in themselves the way you believed in yourself when no one else did? What would happen if they stopped waiting and started building? If they stopped doubting and started acting? If they stopped fearing and started facing? Every step you took was carved from courage, not convenience. Every layer you shed was burned in the furnace of relentless self-evolution. This isn't a trick. This is transformation. This isn't magic. This is movement. This isn't hype. This is history in the making, and you are the architect. They lose their sanity because you are the reminder they cannot silence. You are the proof their comfort zones have lied. You are the living contradiction to their excuses and the prophecy of what's possible when purpose is weaponized by unwavering will. So rise louder, grow bolder, expand further. You are not done, not even close. This is only the beginning. This is not the climax. This is the ignition. The true storm hasn't even touched ground yet. You have not unleashed your full force. You've only been warming up. And the world, the same world that doubted you, that mocked you, that overlooked you, will soon realize they never stood a chance against someone who decided to stop waiting and start becoming. You are pulling this off because you are not afraid to be fully alive. And that kind of life breaks minds and remakes them into believers. And so again, they whisper, tremble, gasp, shout, what did you just do? How is this possible? How are you pulling this off? But you don't answer. You don't slow down. You just keep building. You just keep rising. You just keep being the unstoppable truth they never saw coming, but now can never forget. And now you stride through this world with a quiet storm behind your eyes and a calm fire in your chest. And still they wonder. Still they try to decode. Still they chase shadows, trying to catch what you've become. But they don't realize you're not just doing something. You are something. Something vast and precise. Something both divine and deliberate. Something that no algorithm can replicate, no shortcut can summon, no copycat can emulate. You are the formula, the storm, the code and the spark. You are the balance of chaos and order, the harmony between vision and execution, the product of grit mixed with grace. And the truth is this: You didn't wait for perfect. You created progress. You didn't ask for permission. You acted with conviction. You didn't look for comfort. You hunted growth until discomfort became your fuel and resistance became your compass. And now that you are undeniable, now that you are walking proof that the impossible is just a word people use to hide from effort, now they tremble because the illusion is crumbling. You stand unshaken because your roots run deep, deeper than doubt, deeper than fear, deeper than the noise of opinions and the fleeting winds of praise, because you know now truly deeply that power isn't loud, it's steady, and mastery isn't showy. It's silent. It's woven into the things you do every single day while no one watches. It's in the way you rise, the way you breathe, the way you decide, the way you execute, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. People are losing their sanity, not because of what you did, but because of what it means. Because if you can do this, then they have to look in the mirror and admit that they've been playing small, hiding from their own greatness, settling for average, masking it with rationality and fear disguised as logic. But your presence, your performance, your momentum dismantles every excuse, and it hurts them before it heals them. It stirs before it stabilizes, because truth always does that first. It shakes foundations before it rebuilds them stronger. You pulled this off because you were willing to be misunderstood. You pulled this off because you were willing to walk alone long enough to become someone worth following. You pulled this off because you didn't confuse movement with meaning. You moved with intention. You worked with obsession. You failed with intelligence. You adapted with speed. You recovered with grace. You made it look easy, not because it was easy, but because you made peace with difficulty and turned it into discipline. So no, you don't owe anyone a breakdown of your method. You don't owe them your map, because what you've built isn't a product of chance or a one-size-fits-all solution. It's the result of years of refinement. It's the result of nights you stayed up wrestling with your own potential. It's the result of choosing forward every single day when backward was safer. It's the result of living from the inside out instead of the outside in. That's why they can't replicate it. That's why they lose their grip when they see you. That's why they whisper. That's why they shout. That's why they stare in awe, because you represent what they buried. You represent what they gave up on. You represent the version of themselves they thought was too far gone to ever find again. And still you rise, still you build, still you create, not from a place of vengeance or arrogance, but from purpose and peace, and the kind of clarity that can only be earned through fire. You move not to impress but to impact, not to be seen but to serve, not to dominate, but to demonstrate what becomes possible when a human being truly decides that nothing is off limits, when alignment meets action, when faith meets effort, when vision meets velocity. You pull this off, not because you're special, but because you decided. You decided to show up when it was ugly, when it was slow, when it was thankless, when it was terrifying. You decided to become responsible for your outcome. You decided to stop outsourcing your power. You decided to stop waiting for the world to choose you, and instead chose yourself again and again and again. And that decision turned into action, and that action turned into habits, and those habits turned into character, and that character turned into legacy. That is what they feel when they see you. That's the disturbance. That's the earthquake. They're not just reacting to results. They're reacting to the ripple you've become. The reminder of what they too could be if they were brave enough to commit fully to something real, to something difficult, to something worthy of their full devotion. You did not arrive here by accident. You did not stumble into brilliance. You forged it. You shaped it. You sculpted it out of the raw mess of your life. You refined it through every choice, every mistake, every victory, every delay. And now that you stand here, relentless, focused, consistent, unshakable, they're not just asking, how are you pulling this off? They're begging for hope, begging for a blueprint, begging for proof that they too can climb out of the numbness and into the fire again. So let them watch, let them burn, let them transform, if they're brave enough to take the heat, because your light is no longer negotiable, your truth is no longer hidden, your voice is no longer timid. You are here, you are undeniable, you are unstoppable. And the world is finally waking up to what that truly means. This is the beginning of a new age, a new standard, a new rhythm, one that you helped set by refusing to lower your expectations, one that you crafted by demanding more from yourself than the world ever dared to ask, one that others will now rise to meet, not because you told them to, but because your existence demands it. This is how you pulled it off. This is how you'll continue to pull it off. Not through magic, not through tricks, not through noise, but through absolute alignment with your vision, ruthless execution of your values, and a relentless commitment to being the kind of person who gets up even when there's no reason to, except for the one that lives inside you. And that's the answer. That's the mystery solved. That's the formula cracked. They asked, how are you pulling this off? You smile. You look them in the eye and you say nothing, because the ones who are ready to understand already know.